All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, this long winding road that we endure called life teaches us many harsh lessons. One of them being that some of the things that we do cannot be undone, and many of the things that we say cannot be unsaid. We've all had things said to us in the past by someone that we may have even liked a lot or quote unquote loved. Well, we said to ourselves, you know what? I see that I can't deal with this person anymore. Or the tenor of our relationship is going to change because of the boldness with which this person had to say what they said to me. You know, we all know that there are things that people say because they're ready to end the quote unquote rapport or the relationship, whether it's a significant other, a family member, a so-called friend, a colleague in the workplace, or what have you. All type of things happen to us over the course of this road called life that teach us about people, about ourselves, so on and so forth. And unfortunately, chapters come to an end. Well, it appears as if Mr. Ben Simmons is ready to end his chapter in Philadelphia because of certain things that were said to or about him that he feels like there can be no reclamation of that relationship. And that happens a lot in life. It's always easier, in my view, to move forward than it is to reclaim something from the past. That doesn't mean that it's not worth it. So I'm not going to say that necessarily that old chapter in Philadelphia is over for Ben Simmons, but it appears to be so. So is he well within his right to want out of Philadelphia? You know, that's up for debate. I think that one of the issues that Ben Simmons has, one of the many issues that he has, is his unwillingness to embrace self-accountability. You can't be a leader if you don't want to hold yourself accountable. You cannot be a success in life if you do not want to hold yourself accountable. Because your teammates watch whether or not you hold yourself accountable, and that's going to determine their willingness to follow you. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Reportedly told Philadelphia's front office that he no longer wants to be a 76er and he does not intend to report to training camp. According to a Western Conference exec, the all-star point guard has eyes on 3 California teams as a possible destination.
Well, I've been saying for the last year and change that the perfect location for Ben Simmons to land would be Golden State. I mean, that would almost be too perfect. It would be a team with 2 of the most elite shooters in the history of the NBA. That team is also looking for a defensive stalwart who can guard multiple positions and make up for some of the deficiencies that some of their older players may have on defense, like a Stephen Curry, a Draymond Green who's getting a bit long in the tooth. That's assuming that Draymond won't be a part of the trade. Who the hell knows? As well as a Klay Thompson who's coming back from multiple serious injuries. So Ben Simmons would fit in perfectly, at least presumably, he would fit in perfectly with the Golden State Warriors.
How does this play out?
Sacramento in California?
Yeah. Are they in the mix?
Yeah, I just don't know how the Lakers, first of all, I don't know how the Lakers pull this off. Because you're not giving up Anthony Davis, you're definitely not giving up LeBron James. And
Shannon Sharp, are you sure that they're not willing to give up Anthony Davis? Are you sure about that? I mean, I'm prone to agree with you, but you never know, man. You never know. The only thing that might stop an Anthony Davis trade, or the main thing that might stop an Anthony Davis trade, not only that he's more skilled all around than a Ben Simmons, and also more experienced when it comes to the deep playoff runs or a deep playoff run that resulted in a championship. The only thing that might really stop or inhibit a Ben Simmons for Anthony Davis trade is that they're both rep by the same manager, by the same agent, that being Rich Paul. So I'm pretty sure that, you know, Rich Paul does not want to, you know, switch one client for another. And of course, Anthony Davis wouldn't fit in with Joel Embiid out there in Philadelphia. Their games really would not mesh too well because they both operate in the relatively same space. Now, some people might say, well, Anthony Davis did pretty well playing alongside of Boogie Cousins a couple of years ago before Boogie Cousins got hurt. But I think that they meshed relatively well together, but it took them a long time to get their show on the road. I don't think that Philadelphia wants to take an entire season to see whether or not Joel Embiid would mix well with Anthony Davis. And of course, it would take an Anthony Davis for the GM of the Philadelphia 76ers to pull the trigger on that trade.
Or wants Russell Westbrook, so the Lakers can't put together a package that will satisfy Daryl Morey. Okay, let's go to the Clippers. Are you giving up Paul George or Kawhi? Because nothing else matters. You can't give me Marcus Morris. You can't give me Reggie Jackson,
Okay, well,
Luke Kennard.
It's a big no on Kawhi. It's 50-50 on Paul George, but I believe
It's not 50-50 on Paul George. It is not 50-50 on Paul George. Paul George plays defense in the same realm as Ben Simmons, and offensively is not even close. Paul George is a better overall player than Ben Simmons. So that's a hell no on Paul George for Ben Simmons straight up. The only reason why the Lakers once again might consider Anthony Davis for Ben Simmons is because Anthony Davis is so prone to injury. That's it. But once again, the fact that they're both rep by the same agent, that being Rich Paul, in my view, puts the kibosh on that potential trade. It's pretty obvious that Ben Simmons is trying to angle his way towards the Golden State Warriors, at least in my view.
would prefer Paul George over Ben Simmons.
Okay, now we go to Golden State.
Yep.
You giving up Draymond and Clay? I don't think Bob Myers is going to want to do that. Now, I also saw another report that says he'd be willing to, go anywhere. I don't know if that's true, Skip, but it's just time for Ben Simmons to exit the 76ers.
I agree with that partially, but what is really time for Ben Simmons to do is look at himself in the mirror and ask himself if he's gotten the most out of his abilities while he's been in the NBA. So many people, they get fooled. They go on websites, on, social media platforms, whether it be House of Highlights or, wherever they go to watch these guys work out in the off season. And they're out, doing some gym run somewhere, Rico Hines or, whoever it is who runs a lot of these off season practices and workouts, gym runs, etc. They see these guys shirtless, sweating all over the place. They have a six-pack and a headband on. They say, oh, yeah, they putting their work in. These dudes are world-class athletes. There's a big difference. Like, for example, in boxing, there's a big difference between being in shape and in condition. In shape is how you look on the outside. Condition is how well your body functions on the inside. It's almost like a car that looks beautiful on the outside. It's painted, it's polished and everything, but the engine is not up to snuff. That's the difference between being in shape and being in condition. In basketball, a lot of these guys, they fool people. They put up these 20-minute highlight videos of them training in the off season, and then you get into the real game where there's a live camera and you see that there's been no growth to their game whatsoever. We've seen that with Kyle Kuzma. We've also seen that with Ben Simmons. There's been no improvement in either one of those two players over the course of their careers.
Skip, after Doc said to Skip, he's not going back. You can't ask Doc Rivers, do you think you can win a championship with Ben Simmons as your starting point guard? And the coach said,
"Yeah,
it's not something I can answer. I don't know right now."
I don't know the answer to that right now," said Doc Rivers to that question.
Doc Rivers talks like he's Pat Riley or, Phil Jackson or someone like that. Kudos to Ben Simmons for not coming back and saying, I'm not sure if I could win a championship with Doc Rivers as coach. Because Doc Rivers only has one championship. And this guy has blown so many series leads. It's incredible that he still has the esteem that he still has the quote unquote reputation that he has with how many series he's blown over the course of his career. And he has the nerve to get on television and claim that he doesn't know if he can win a championship with me. You've been coaching for 20 years, dude. You only have one championship. No, it really begs the question of whether or not you even know what it takes to win a championship.
Star, what do you think the turning point of the game was?
Yeah.
It was when we hit a layup.
Yeah. He said, I don't know how to say it, but it was when we had an open shot and made just one free throw. Because it wasn't Ben who made the free throw.
Right. Yeah. But it was Ben that had the layup.
Yeah, right.
So I said...
And that was a terrible comment by Joel Embiid. And don't get it twisted. Joel Embiid, he went out there hobbled. Stat-wise, he played a great series. Stat-wise. But that's not something that you say on national TV in a post-game presser. You have to have more discernment and prudence than that to throw your teammate under the bus, even if that's how you feel. And there's a lot to be said for the art of diplomacy. That's why so many of these players, they should take media courses in the off season so they can be trained on how to moderate their own emotions after the game. A master of that was Michael Jordan. He was incredible in the post-game pressers. and his ability to not say anything inflammatory and to not allow the media to coax him into saying anything inflammatory or, divisive for his team. And so many of these star athletes, they should take their time to answer questions, and they should take the time in the off season to understand the art of media relations. Very important for their careers.
Goes back after that.
I agree.
You got basically the head coach and the superstar saying that it was your fault. He became unplayable. It wrecked his confidence because remember, Skip, early on they asked, well, Doc, you think about taking Ben out? You don't know basketball if you think I will take Ben Simmons out of the game. And then 4 games later, he took Ben Simmons out of the game. It was over.
Right?
He had to go.
Got it.
And so in a situation like that also, Skip, Ben Simmons considered himself a superstar?
And he's not. And one of the reasons why so many of these players consider themselves superstars, even though they're not, is because they watch shows like this and they listen to people like you, Shannon Sharp, call everybody a goddamn superstar. You calling Dame Lillard a superstar. There are only 5 superstars in the NBA. It's LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, Stephen Curry, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Those are the only 5 superstars in the NBA. There are some bubble superstars, the best of them being James Harden. He's the best of the non-superstars in the NBA. But, so many of these players, they get lavish with this inordinate amount of praise, and it just builds up their ego, and it makes their head grow to the point where they have a difficult time holding themselves accountable. Ben Simmons is one of those players. He's going to end up looking back at his career and realizing that he did not get as much as he should have on the basketball floor. But they make so much money, a lot of these guys don't care. They look in the mirror, and as long as their pecs and their abs are showing, and they get out on the floor and they put up decent stats, make a couple of all-star teams, so on and so forth, they don't care about, their quote-unquote winning legacy or the lack thereof.
He is a superstar. It's hard to keep these 2 guys together for an extended period of time.
Well, I said for a very long time that one of them has to go. I said that shit 2 or 3 years ago, that one of them needs to be traded. And I said that it needed to be Ben Simmons. I said that shit like 2 years ago.
Is going to have to take a lesser role. We saw the bicker and ultimately break up the Lakers. We saw what happened in Cleveland with Kyrie and LeBron.
Yeah, you're doing Shaq and
Kobe, right. We saw what happened with the Lakers.
Yes.
We saw what happened with LeBron and Kyrie. We saw what happened in OKC. Mm-hmm. Skip, it's hard to keep 2 guys together. And it seems to me, the 76ers...
Particularly when they're both under 30. That's the real difficulty in keeping 2 very young, burgeoning star players or burgeoning superstar players on the same squad. And like I stated, growing up in the 90s, there were a bevy of young teams that had star talent, multiple potential star players on their team, and it just didn't work because everyone was just so busy trying to rip and run on the basketball court and off. They're competing for minutes, they're competing for shots, they're competing for articles in the newspaper, they're competing for women. And those are the problems that you have when you have multiple star or borderline superstar players on young teams. That's why I always state, when I watched the first 3-peat Bulls team, they were more talented, but the second 3-peat Bulls team, they seemed to be more in sync because all of those players were in their early 30s, at least for the most part. Other than Jordan, Pippen, and Rodman, everyone was pretty much just happy to be in the NBA. All of the players on the team were cast-offs except for Jordan and Pippen. Even Rodman was a cast-off. The Chicago Bulls opportunity was considered his last real opportunity in the NBA because even though he was uber talented, Rodman was starting to be viewed as someone who was more trouble than he was worth. He was viewed as a player who did not respect authority. Even the other great player on the team, on whichever team it was, whether it was Detroit with Isaiah Thomas or San Antonio with David Robinson, he did not respect authority anymore. And what happened on Chicago is that he finally found himself immersed in a framework filled with authority figures that he could respect. He could respect Jordan. He could respect Phil Jackson. So that's why they were able to be relatively successful over that time period, in addition to the fact that all of those players were mature enough that, they had bust their cherry in the league. Jordan had his opportunities to average 35 and 37 points per game. Scotty had his almost 2 seasons of being the star player on the squad and winning an All-Star game MVP and finishing top 3 or top 5 in MVP voting. He had those opportunities already. Rodman had his opportunities to act out and win multiple rebounding titles and Defensive Players of the Year. So by the time they came together on the Bulls in the mid to late 90s, they would just focus on winning championships. When you have these teams like the late 90s, early 2000s Milwaukee Bucks with Ray Allen and Glenn Big Dog Robinson and Sam Cassell, or the Dallas Mavericks of the mid 90s with Jason Kidd and Jimmy Jackson and Jamal Mashburn, so on and so forth, the Orlando Magic with Shaq and Penny, it's very difficult to have multiple young players on a team who have not been able to accomplish all of their individual goals yet. Also with the Minnesota Timberwolves, KG and Stephon Marbury. Who knows what happens if Marbury does not have all those idiots in his ear trying to get him to search out stardom somewhere else. Maybe the Timberwolves are a modern version or a 2000s version of the Mailman and John Stockton. What they were in Utah, Garnett and Marbury could have been in Minnesota for a 10-year stretch in the 2000s. Who knows? And maybe could have broken through near the end. But that never came to be because of the egos and the youth.
They're wagging to Joel Embiid.
I agree.
And Ben's like, you know what? Y'all blame me for everything. Let me go ahead and let me go somewhere else. Y'all do whatever y'all can do and just let me go in peace.
Okay? Got it. But here's the problem for the 76ers right now. They have burned themselves. They have shot themselves in both feet with those 2 comments.
Yep.
Both those comments.
Once again, there are certain things that you say that cannot be unsaid. And that's why it's so important to be able to control the tongue, the mouth. It really is. Whether that means that you have to cut people off, put them on timeout, because we're going to run into certain people who test our patience and who test our love for them with the flagrancy of their disrespect or of their mouth. Especially when you know that you yourself have a razor sharp tongue and a razor sharp wit. Sometimes you have to put people on timeout to help them hopefully understand the dangerous territory that they're treading in, because you know that once you open your mouth, it's going to be nothing but fire that comes out. So there are certain things that we do that cannot be undone. There are certain things that we say that cannot be unsaid. And the Philadelphia 76ers, it's going to be very interesting to see if they can, put forth a reclamation for this problem that they've created with Ben Simmons. And they have created this problem. Number one, because they've never truly held him accountable from the very beginning. They've never told him, look, this is the metric for you this season. You have to take 5 jump shots a game. We have to see that you're doing these things. It starts in practice and then over into the game. We need you to take 5 to 10 jump shots a game. We don't care how many of them you miss. We need you to take it to the basket and hopefully take 8, 9 free throws a game. We need these things from you so that you can put pressure on the defense and open things up for the other players, particularly on offense. It opens things up for Joel and for the shooters.
Burners that I do not blame Ben Simmons or your man Rich Paul, his agent, for saying that's enough.
Right.
We're done. We're out. We're not coming to camp.
Right.
We will hold out if you don't move us now.
Right.
And yet, once that becomes public, as it really became public yesterday, thanks to a Philadelphia Inquirer report on it, that it's done.
Right.
Now you've lost all of your leverage. The rest of the league sitting back saying, well, what will you give us to take Ben Simmons off your hands, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got an update?
Yeah, Skip. LeBron just texted me. He said, whatever you do, keep my name out your mouth, or the lock's going to be changed when you get home. I don't know why Bron talking to me like this for.
What is it?
Go ahead.
Is it big?
Go ahead.
Is it something on Cam?
No.
Oh.
About Ben Simmons.
It's about Ben Simmons. Bron said, I noted that you like talking about Ben Simmons more than you like talking about me. Make sure you watch your mouth, unless you want to lose your family. So, Skip, let's go on to the next topic, please.
Yes.
Well, say it.
Go ahead. I'm going to hear your point. I'm going to hear your point first.
Okay. So, I remain a big Ben Simmons fan. You do not. Mm-hmm. I'm going to reiterate my points. Rookie of the year.
He was.
Next 3 years in a row, All-Star, All-Star, All-Star. Twice All-Defensive team.
Yeah, twice. Back-to-back years.
1 year, 2018, he was first team All-NBA because he led the NBA in steals at 6 feet 10 inches tall.
Right.
Yeah, he's a wonderkid on defense. Nobody can deny that. Ben Simmons is exceptional on defense.
Hit hard on little Trae Young in the Atlanta series. He is so long and so strong and so agile. He's just hard to get around and through and over, especially for Trae, who's about 5'11", maybe. Is that what we give him?
Yeah, I'll give him that.
All right, and then I'm going to remind you, I'm going to hark back to this one game with no Joel Embiid. It was February 15th at Utah. Ben Simmons made this statement. He scored 42 points with 9 boards and 12 assists because he can flat out pass the basketball. And he was 15 of 26 from the field against Gobert, Defensive Player of the Year.
Right, but was Rudy Gobert really guarding Ben Simmons, for 94 feet? I mean, come on. Rudy Gobert is like, he's like the Kembe Mutombo 2.0. He's like Mutombo with better feet. Rudy Gobert can't guard Ben Simmons in space.
Ben Simmons in that game made 12 of 13 free throws. So don't tell me he can't.
Right.
It's all in there. He's got the demons. He needs more psychology than coaching.
Right.
Again, some guys just don't have it. They just are naturally not good free throw shooters.
Right.
Their motion is unfixable. Their touch, their feel, whatever it is.
Right, but Ben Simmons does not have good motion. When you look at him shoot free throws, his left elbow flares out way too much. So that tells me that either he's received terrible coaching over the course of his young life, normally in his youth. That's where these guys develop these terrible shooting forms like the Balls, the Ball brothers or Ben Simmons. Or he's so hard-headed he refuses to allow anyone else to repair it for him, because I'm sure if I see it, that the coaches on the 76ers see it and they say to him, Ben, you have to stop allowing your elbow to flare like that. Maybe he's such a know-it-all, he just refuses to do so. He refuses to comply. Who knows? But once again, pride goes before destruction.
He looks good at the free throw line as far as on his left-handed, but that looks good to me. That looks fixable if you can start in here. He got the demons last year, and he ran from the free throw line.
But Skip, I don't believe he can correct those. I don't believe those demons can leave him in Philly. Look at a guy like Darren Waller.
Yeah.
He was in Baltimore.
He was.
He had to leave Baltimore, go to Oakland. Now look at him.
Well, he had off the field.
Right, but I'm saying I don't believe he could have corrected what was going on off the field in Baltimore.
Like change scenery.
Right. He got to change the scenery. Yeah. Got a new outlook. And now he's one of the 3 best tight ends in all of football.
Okay.
Maybe Ben going somewhere else. Maybe this gives him an opportunity.
Right, but is Ben going to, is he going to improve some of the deficiencies that he has? That's the real problem, Shannon Sharp. The problem is not the location. At the end of the day, Ben Simmons has been blessed to be drafted to a team that has no problem, outfitting his squad with talent that complements him. I mean, many people say that he and Joel Embiid don't really complement one another. I thought that Doc Rivers did a better job of improving the rapport between Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons this year. But how many other teams are going to provide, some supplementary players that are going to help Ben Simmons become an even better player and amplify what he does well, like Philadelphia did? I mean, the Ben Simmons thing is really a conundrum right now. But, the solution lies where it always lies, by looking in the mirror and asking yourself, what can you do better?
This is what I need. Now we can see the real Ben Simmons and what everybody thought he was, because he was supposed to be that combination. Magic, LeBron. And, yeah, he's an outstanding. He's the first guard to finish in the top 3 in the MVP and the Defensive Player of the Year since Gary Payton won it. So that just shows how special he is on that end.
Can be.
But I just think the thing is...
Right, but is he really a guard? Like, come on. Dude is 6'10".
On the offensive end, a point guard, Skip, you can't become unplayable in the fourth quarter. You just can't.
No. And I'd like to see him make more than 59% of his career free throws.
Right.
And I would like to see him have the guts or the confidence or the faith in himself to shoot a few more threes, because we see the workout videos and he's just draining threes. Because I know he can.
Yeah,
he's gifted.
Dude make like 5 in a row, 6 in a row. I'm like, bro,
just do it.
Yeah.
You need somebody to light your fire to say, you can do this, just keep shooting and they'll start going in. He needs to see a couple go down and then he'll be
No, the problem with Ben Simmons is that he's an arrogant asshole. So he does this in practice and then he gets to the game and he doesn't want to do it because he feels like the crowd and the coaching staff and the organization want him to do it. So, he's a contrarian. He has to deal with his own sense of contrarianism before he can become a better player. He's worried about making sure that people don't think that they got him to do something that he didn't choose to do himself.
Because if you added that to the arsenal, whew.
But you got to shoot him, though, Skip.
Got to shoot him with some faith.
If you don't shoot him,
some faith. So again, there was the one year, that monster year, 2018, when just inside of the 3-point line, he shot 58% from the field. So he was making even a few jump shots.
Yeah.
And then last year, it dwindled all the way down to 39%. So he was losing faith in himself from inside the 3-point line.
Right.
And he became just a lane scorer,
right.
Just anything up. And he's got great agility around the rim. We know that, right? Mm-hmm. So the point is, I agree he needs to change his scenery, but the Sixers are just, pardon my language, they're just screwed right now. They are stuck.
Skip, you had now I don't know.
They had their chances.
I don't know if
Kevin
Fertitta was going to go through this, because James Harden, it's like, okay, you want Harden? I don't know if the owner of the Rockets were going to help Daryl Morey by shipping James Harden. But can you imagine James Harden and Joel Embiid in that pick and roll, Skip?
Yeah, I bet that both teams wish they made that trade right now, because I think that both teams will be better off had they made that trade. But Harden ended up in Brooklyn with KD and Kyrie.
Situation you have right now. Yeah.
But I just think the thing is, Skip, look, the Sixers
and it was, I guess it was proposed Ben Simmons straight up for James. Yeah. I'm not sure exactly how the details.
They should have jumped on that with both feet.
Well, they should have. Now that's an easy hindsight. I still believe that all the way up to Josh Harris, the owner, and Daryl Morey too, that I don't think they want to give up Ben Simmons.
Me neither. I think that they're willing to try to see if they can make it work with him because of all the things that he can do. He does a lot of things. Like, he brings a lot of things to the table, and he's going to be very difficult to replace. And I think that that's why it's taking so long for them to pull the trigger on a trade, because they know even if they were to trade him for Dame Lillard, Dame is going to bring more offensively, but Dame can't guard a statue. Like, he can't guard anybody. So at the end of the day, if you're the Philadelphia 76ers and you square up against the Milwaukee Bucks in the playoffs and you get Jrue Holiday guarding Dame Lillard, what if Dame has a series like he had against Jrue Holiday back in 2018? Where he shoots 30% for the series and Jrue Holiday outplays him. Because that can happen. Jrue Holiday can do that defensively to certain players. And then on top of that, there's no defense to, at least make up for the lack of offense. Or what if Philadelphia plays the Nets? And, Dame is going off averaging 30 points per game, but so is Kyrie. Now it comes down to Joel Embiid against KD and James Harden. You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing, and I believe that is the conundrum, the dilemma that the GM, Daryl Morey, of the Philadelphia 76ers is dealing with right now. I think that he can see more of the things that Ben Simmons brings to the table than the average person, and Ben is not going to be that easy to replace.
Their senses after the pain wore off of that blown lead to the Hawks, losing in Game 7. It was at home, right? It was in Philly. Yeah, they lost at home.
Yeah. I disagree. I believe they realized that they tried to make it work. Doc says, look, we got 2 superstar players. We're going to make it work. But it seems to me they relied more heavily on Joel Embiid, and rightfully so, Skip. But Ben Simmons was like, I'm an all-star. I'm an all-NBA player also. I need some love, too. And it seems to the process of them going more toward.
I also think that Ben Simmons is looking at the situation like, you guys are just focusing on what I'm not doing. How about you pay some attention to what I am doing. And that often is what leads to the dissolution of relationships. You have one party who believes that they're doing all these things that go unnoticed by their partner. And, sometimes that does happen. People are so self-centered, they miss out on what the partner is doing as opposed to focusing on what they perceive them not to be doing.
He took Ben out of a little comfort zone. Because, Skip, if you think about it, Ben Simmons plays his best basketball when Joel Embiid is not in the game.
Yep.
You remember that playoff game, Skip?
Yeah.
When Jared Dudley challenged him?
Do I?
And then boom, boom, he did that.
Well, he just took the game over. Right. He was that guy.
He was that guy. So now you're looking at, well, damn, if we can just get this with Joel, ooh, we got something. This is a 1-2 punch.
For a fact, I have a high-placed Sixers source who 2 years ago told me that all the way to the top, to ownership, this is pre-Daryl Morey,
right.
But the ownership, that they lean more toward Ben Simmons for the long haul than Joel.
Right.
And I fought back. I said, that's wrong.
Right.
Because, I'm a huge fan of Joel's. And I said, I'm sorry, as good as Ben Simmons is, no, that guy is better and will always be better if he can stay healthy and happy. That's
the thing.
Okay, so now they're to the point where I think it scares them to give up Ben Simmons because I think they still believe that he can become a superstar.
Yeah, for it to get like this, something
I don't see Ben Simmons becoming a superstar. I'm sorry. I just don't see that. But again, I'm not someone who throws that word or that term around so loosely. To me, the term superstar is up there in, the upper reaches of the stratosphere, like the word wife. Everybody calls the female that they're with their wife or their wifey, but the literal meaning of that term wife is really hollowed when you have an understanding of it and what it entails. To be a superstar, in my view, you must have accomplished so much in both the regular season and the postseason to earn that title, to earn that right. I mean, I think that of the five guys that I call superstars, the only one who's never won a regular season MVP is Kawhi Leonard. And Kawhi has finished top 2 or top 3 in MVP regular season voting multiple times. So to me, once you finish top 2 or top 3 multiple years, that's basically, the voters' way of saying that you're MVP caliber in the regular season. And then when you do things in the postseason like Kawhi has done, particularly in 2019, that shows you why, in my view anyway, why he's a superstar. So I just can't, I can't say, well, Ben Simmons is going to become a superstar. He's like 25, 26 years old already. These are the years that he's supposed to be having these standout individual performances. So I don't think it's going to get much better for him.
Happened before. It's hard for me to believe. And yeah, I agree with you. The two things that were uttered by the head coach and the star player are deal breakers.
They are.
You don't come back from that. But I think it started to sour before that. And we're going to have to do some digging. We're going to have to do some research because I believe something happened before that made Ben Simmons try to turn sour. Did they try to trade him before? Was there something going on behind the scenes that the Sixers?
I'm pretty sure there was. I'm pretty sure that there were some attempts to move Ben Simmons in the past, and I'm pretty sure that there was some innuendo put forth about Ben Simmons that, he got wind of. And he's the type of dude, he's not going to forget. And I can't blame people for that. People try to do you dirty, and you choose to not forget it. That's your prerogative. I can't get mad at people for that. You have to watch out for yourself. And it's a cold, dirty world out here for the most part.
They somehow got back to Ben Simmons, and he's like, oh, this is what y'all think of me.
Yeah. Well, and remember, it's now double jeopardy because Rich Paul is indicating, I want Maxey out of there too, who was a sort of a revelation for the Sixers.
Right.
So now two of his clients are saying, we're done with you.
Right.
So you're double burned, and you can't win this one. I don't see a win out of this for the Sixers.
Well, what about Sacramento?
Right, but why the hell does Rich Paul want Maxey out of there too? Is he just trying to flex on the 76ers? What's really going on here? And why is this allowed? Your job as an agent is to make sure that your clients are sent to the best place for them that they want to go to, not to use your clients as pawns to accumulate some level of power and prestige for yourself. So, but the NBA, they've really dropped the ball on the whole Rich Paul situation.
Take De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, and a first rounder for Ben Simmons.
And by the way, I like Rich Paul. I like many of the things that he's been able to do for himself. But power has to be moderated. There has to be a check and a balance everywhere. If there's no check, to certain things that people are doing, then you create an imbalance, you create a monopoly. And now you have, third parties or foreign powers controlling the flow of the business venture, that being the NBA.
Does Sacramento want to do that? Does Sacramento say, will we wind up with a good player, even a great player, on a bad team? If you're taking away our two best younger players, not
you don't seem to be going nowhere with them.
I would buy that.
I mean, I like De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox is 20 or 25-7. Buddy Hield.
Now, De'Aaron Fox could be a player who may go to another team and become a revelation. Some of the things that, that young man can do is extraordinary. So who knows? He might be a bargaining chip in there that could really help the Philadelphia 76ers, especially if he plays any defense. No, but if I'm Daryl Morey, I want as least an amount of conversation about De'Aaron Fox as possible, because we want his stock to be as low as possible.
As an 18 to 20 point a night guy.
Well, for your Lakers, I would have taken Buddy Hield over Russell Westbrook.
Absolutely. They wanted Buddy Hield over Russell Westbrook. That's why they got so mad at Schroeder, because Schroeder would not sign a contract with them that would have allowed the sign and trade to get Buddy Hield. That's why these guys get on TV and want to shit on Schroeder, because their attitude is, you could have took the $84 million and you would have got traded, but they can't throw the trade part in there. Shannon Sharpe knows that Schroeder was going to get sent to the Sacramento Kings for Buddy Hield. He knows that already, but he can't say that shit on TV. But what he will do is he'll join in with the chorus of people who want to shit on Schroeder.
Okay. But plus, Skip, you get a guy that's tremendous in the pick and roll, which De'Aaron Fox is, and you get a guy that's a shooter that can space the floor, so you can't collapse it on Joel Embiid.
Yeah,
I like that. If you can keep Tobias Harris, Danny Green, Buddy Hield, De'Aaron Fox, Joel Embiid, Skip, that's something. Okay. Now, all things being equal, I'd rather have Dame Lillard if I'm Daryl Morey, but I just don't know at the start of the season if you can get Dame.
Look, it would be great for them to have Dame Lillard, just for the sake of notoriety. But I don't believe that Dame is a winning player. I've been saying this for 4 years now. He takes too many shots and he averages too many points per game. That style of play does not win championships. 6-foot guards trying to average 28, 29 points per game, that's not going to win you a championship. I don't care who you are. Whether it's the old Isaiah Thomas, the Isaiah Thomas of the Boston Celtics from a couple of years ago, Allen Iverson, whoever. That style does not win championships. And then on top of that, Dame plays no defense.
To Sacramento. Would Rich Paul be happy with his client in Sacramento? Probably not. Will they fight that if it's on the front?
But I'm Skip, if you look around, where is he going to go? I mean, Minnesota, with Cat and Ben Simmons and Anthony Edwards, is that a formidable big three?
Sure.
But I don't know if he wants to be in Minnesota. Hell no, nobody wants to be in Minnesota.
That's the problem.
KG was really the only one that wanted to stay, and he realized he had stayed too long.
Well, Kevin Love hung in there for a while.
Yeah. Until he realized, I'm getting 28 and 22 and with a 11th seed.
They hadn't made the playoffs. They didn't make it one time.
Not even come close.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he goes there, and we look at Kevin Love as a different player. He might.
Do we really look at Kevin Love as a different player? To me, Kevin Love has always been the same guy. Great stat stuffer, not a winning player. I think that his tenure in Cleveland is going to get him into the Hall of Fame, though.
And Hall of Famer now.
Maybe. I say good luck.
Skip, this is a bad situation. It might get messier before it gets better.
Agreed.
I agree with that, because I think that Philly's going to try to hold on to him. And like any relationship where somebody says or does something where there's no going back, and they try to hold on to the infringed party or the infracted party, it's just going to get messy.
Guys, we're moving back to the NFL.
But anyway, that's basically it on that, brothers. We'll see how things turn out with Mr. Ben Simmons. So peace.